Finally, some time for me to sit down and read. Let's try this book and see if it's any good. Yeah, no, maybe not. Let's try this one. No, I'm not really feeling it either. Let's try this one. Hopefully this one will stick. Yeah, no, not this one either. Maybe this one? No, not it either. Let's just go on my phone and see what's on TikTok. And I'm on TikTok for the rest of the night. Every reader's been there at some point, right? You sit down and you go to pick up that book that everybody has been raving about, and then instead of reading, you decide to pick up your phone and scroll on TikTok for hours on end and never read a single page. If that sounds like something that you are doing, then unfortunately you are in a reading slump. But don't worry, I am here to bring my 5 tips, tricks, topics, tasks, whatever you want to call them, to help you get out of a reading slump. Hello people of the YouTube world and all who are watching this. I am Mackenzie901K. I think we should just get right on into topic number 1. So the first topic that I want to talk about is quite simply accepting that you are in a reading slump. So that means that pretty much you look at yourself and you say, hey self, you're in a reading slump. And then looking at yourself again and saying, self, it is okay that you are in a reading slump, because reading slumps happen. Reading, honestly, to me, and this is the worst comparison that you could possibly make, is like working a 9-to-5 job. You are doing it consistently, and eventually that leads to burnout. If you're reading every single day, or you're finishing a book every single day, or you're like me and you think that it's cool and fun to have a reading goal of 100 books to hit by the end of the year, then yeah, that may lead to a reading slump. That may do it. That may send you over the edge. We need time off. Reading is no exception to that. So give yourself some time off from reading, whether that be picking up another hobby like playing a new video game, crocheting, coloring, doing something still productive and not scrolling on your phone. We don't want doom scrolling around here. Just doing something productive is honestly so helpful, and it is the first step into getting over this pesky reading slump that you are dealing with. Get out there, do something else for a little bit, and then come back and try to pick up that book you were trying to read earlier. But if that doesn't work for you, we can move on to step 2. And step 2 is rereading an old favorite. You guys know that I love 5 stars around here. I don't know how to say that I love this book any more than just saying I love this book so darn much. I talk about my 5-star reads all the time because I love them so much. Typically, when you read a book and you give it a 5-star, you want to pick it up and reread it again. That being said, that 5-star read gives you excitement. It gives you enjoyment. It makes you want to read. You need to take your energy off of those books that you are trying to pick up right now that you are never going to get through, and focusing that energy to a book that you're actually going to pick up. Whether that be a fantasy book, a romance book, any genre, doesn't matter. As long as you can re-find that enjoyment that you had, that is what counts when it comes to fixing your reading slump. For example, for me, I would pick up like Powerless, Akamath, Fourth Wing, just one of those books where it sucks you in and it's easy to get into and you know the world already and you can just get right into what is happening and what is going on. You can visit those characters that you love or that place that you love. Just find enjoyment in reading. Topic number 3 is switching to a genre that you don't read often. So once you've completed that reread, because in order to move on to step 3, you will need to complete that reread. Once you've completed the reread, you then can move on to a new genre. So for example, for me, I am a notorious fantasy romance reader, meaning I read fantasy romance all the time, and it gets to a point where it gets repetitive and a little bit aggravating to read fantasy romance. We don't want to have those negative associations with reading. So if you're frustrated with the genre, switch up a genre. Pick up a genre you don't typically pick up, or pick up a genre that you also find comfort in. Like for example, if you're reading a lot of fantasy romance and you really enjoy the aspect of romance in a fantasy romance, switch to a just normal romance. I oftentimes have switched to honestly any romance and it sucks me right back in and I'm right back into reading. Or you can do a complete switch and you can switch to like a murder mystery genre, just any type of genre really that will encourage you to read and that will hold your attention. Honestly, anything different works. And then also you could switch to a graphic novel. I have found that graphic novels are honestly one of the #1 ways for me to get out of a reading slump, because they're quick, they're easy, you know what to expect with them, and you can get into them very easily because you're not having to imagine the story in your head. You can visually see what's going on the page, and that just increases my enjoyment to be completely honest with you. While there are some genres that I would recommend, there are some genres that I would steer away from, like classics, nonfiction, high fantasy. The genres that you really have to put your brain power into oftentimes create reading slumps. So I just recommend trying to find something that's fun, fast-paced, that is different from what you normally read, but also doesn't use a lot of brain power, because that is important. Step 4, topic 4. Another thing that I particularly love to do when I'm struggling to get through a book is pick up the same book in a different format. So I love to oftentimes switch to my Kindle. I don't know if it's the satisfaction of like still tapping on a screen or how many words you can fit on a page. I don't know, but it feels like when I switch a book from a physical book to a Kindle, I'm flying through it. I am zooming through it. Like, it is insane how different I feel about a book when I read it physically versus digitally. Another big thing that I would recommend doing is switching even further and going to an audiobook. Audiobooks allow you to immerse yourself into the story without having to physically read. If you're somebody like me who visualizes the story a lot, then it honestly gives you more freedom to visualize the story and to get into it that way, because you're not really having to worry about sitting there holding that book open, scanning every single word. You can really just honestly enjoy the story, if we're being completely honest. And also, audiobooks they're not only good for those of us who imagine what's happening, but they're good if you want to be doing something else besides reading. So if you can find like a brain off activity, some of my favorites include coloring, simple cozy games, puzzles, anything like that you can still do, but you don't have to put your full focus towards. And listening to an audiobook is a top tier experience, and I would highly recommend that to anybody, is to just switch, and that will honestly help you out so much when it comes to picking up a book. And then the very last thing that I want to talk about is some book recs. So these book recs are for me very quick and just something that I still find enjoyment in, that I can still read without getting too caught up in the fact that, oh, it feels like a task to read. You want it to feel like an enjoyment thing, not like a task that you have to do. I also recommend when you are picking out TBRs, you don't of course have to follow my recommendations, but if you're picking out your own TBR, make sure that you are picking it out in very small increments, because if you give yourself too many options to read, I have personally found that I will not read anything. If I, in my brain, feel like I need to read about 20 books at once, I will not read any of those 20 books. I won't read anything at all. Give yourself some limitation, but also make sure you are including those different genres in there as well. So make it small, keep the genres open, and also make sure you're scheduling yourself to read. I find that actually sitting down and scheduling, like giving yourself a specific time to read, whether that's morning, evening, you know, whatever makes you comfortable with reading, I would recommend sticking to that, because that's going to help you so much in the end, and that will get you back into that routine of wanting to read consistently. So with that being said, I think we should go ahead and jump right on into the recommendations that I have, because there's some good ones in there. Let's talk about the TBR that I've got for this. When picking these, I tried to pick books that were pretty much either standalones or part of a smaller series, because I find that if you're in a book slump and you're looking to sit down and read, you don't want to commit to a big series. Series can also often be intimidating. Most of these, well, except for the very last one, is part of a 3-book or less series, or there's also an ongoing series in here. But what better of a time to jump into an ongoing series while you're in a reading slump, so that way you have something to look forward to, and you honestly feel accomplishment when you catch up to everyone else who has already read this series. So here are my 5 book recs. So like I said, keep your TBRs small and simple. We don't want to go overboard with it. We want to make sure that you keep it to a minimum. So the first one that I have here is a book that I recommend quite frequently, and it's for a reason, and that is Daughter of a Pirate King. So this book is overall just fun. It is a fantasy book. It is a romantic fantasy book. So if you, like I said, have been in a slump with romantic fantasy, I maybe would steer away from this one. But if you have been in a slump with some other genre and you do kind of dabble in fantasy, this book is going to be for you. For one, it is a young adult fantasy book. You can allow yourself that grievance where if you still want to read fantasy but you don't want to commit to a super duper high strong fantasy book, this is for you. There's not a lot of world building in this because most of this book takes place on a boat, so you do already have that established scene, and this book also opens up and you're right in the action. We are following Alosa, and Alosa is a pirate, and she gets captured and taken onto this enemy pirate ship, so that way she can pretty much invade this ship and look for a piece of a map, I believe, to help her father, which, if you could not tell by the title, is the Pirate King. You follow Alosa on this mission to try to figure out where this map piece is and how exactly she's going to get it back. So then enter our love interest, Rereading, and Rereading is the first mate. So he is in charge of Alosa. He's in charge of keeping her in line while she's on this ship. Some things start blooming between them. So overall, this is such a fun, fast-paced book. And if you're looking for something that you can binge in a day, it is so short. It is only 308 pages, so it's super easily bingeable in a day. It just jumps right into the action. So what more could you ask for a fast-paced book to get you out of a reading slump? Then next up, we have have my graphic novel recommendation, and that is Lightfall, The Girl and the Guardian, book 1. This is such an immaculate graphic novel, especially for reading slumps, because this is one of the very few graphic novels that I have found to actually follow a story structure. It feels like it almost could be a full story, like you could sit down and write a novel about this. It keeps that adventurous plot while also adding in beautiful visual elements. What more could you ask for? This one's following Bee. She lives with her grandpa called the Pig Wizard, and one day Bee is off collecting something. I can't remember exactly what she's collecting, but she's off doing her like daily chores, and then she comes back and she notices that the Pig Wizard is missing. So she has no idea what happened to him, where he is. She, along her journey of finding the Pig Wizard, meets her friend Cad, and Cad is supposed to be, I believe, like some type of guardian or something like that, and he actually needs to talk to the Pig Wizard because all of his like family disappeared, and he needs to figure out what exactly happened to them. That's the journey they go on. They go on this journey to see where the Pig Wizard went and to hopefully find him and bring him home. It is just so good. It has such a good story, and this graphic novel to me is so unique with how the storytelling is and things like that. So overall, this is so perfect. It will keep you on your toes. There's a beautiful story that you follow, and overall this is just so perfect if you're in a reading slump. Next is my romance recommendation, and that is Wild Love by Elsie Silver. So this is Elsie Silver's newest series, the Rose Hill series. I have read both of the first 2 books in the series, and I absolutely love them so much. They are so fun, and they're perfect if you are in a reading slump. With Elsie Silver, you really just get right into the plot. Like, you get a little bit of an introduction, but for the most part you're jumping right into the plot. And especially if you've read an Elsie Silver book before, I highly recommend. Now, this series is kind of a companion series to the Chestnut Springs series, but if you don't want to read the Chestnut Springs series, you don't have to. You can just jump into this one. It's not that deep. This one we're following Ford Grant, and he is a billionaire. He wants to open up a recording studio in small town Rose Hill. Enter Rosie, who is here pretty much begging for a job from Ford in order to escape her life that she had been trying to get out of because it was so messy and things like that. Romance obviously sparks between them. It's overall so fun. I mean, if you're looking for a romance, if you are looking for a good time, honestly, any book by Elsie Silver, well, I can't really speak to her other series because I haven't read it yet, but any book in the Chestnut Springs series or the Rose Hill series is honestly going to be perfect for you if you are in a reading slump. And then we have my mystery recommendation, and that is The Inheritance Games. Who would have thought that I would be recommending The Inheritance Games? I have had some beef with this book in the past, but overall this book is a really fast-paced book, and I still, even though it really wasn't my cup of tea the first time that I read it, I still recommend it because it is so short and so quick. And the reason that it's quick is because the chapters are literally like 2-3 pages long at most. Like, here's chapter 1. Right, okay. Here's chapter 2. So you literally go from page 1 to page 5. Well, maybe that's a little bit longer than like 2 to 3 pages, but you get the point. They're really short. The plot of it all is also very interesting as well. So you are following this student named Avery Grams, and Avery has had a really rough life. She doesn't really have any money. She, I believe, lives in a car, if I'm remembering correctly. I may not be, but one day she gets summoned to the reading of this will of Tobias Hawthorne. And Tobias Hawthorne is a billionaire. Yes, I said billionaire with a B. She is so confused. She's never met this man before in her life. She just wants to know, why am I being summoned to this will reading of a guy I never knew? So she goes and she finds out that she is actually going to be inheriting this $1 billion and this company and this house and whatever Tobias Hawthorne has. Pretty much the spin on this is that Tobias Hawthorne has his own family. So he has a whole family to himself already. They are pissed because in walks this girl that they've never met before and just takes pretty much all of their inheritance. And there is a spin to this as well. So not only do these people despise her, but she has to live in the same house as these people for the next year of her life in order to obtain this billions of dollars. Crazy, I know. And then the story just goes from there. You follow twists, turns, puzzles. There's all sorts of plot twists. It is an insane story. It will keep you entertained and you will want to know why Tobias Hawthorne gave this random girl so much money. And then the very last book that I'm going to be recommending is a huge, very popular book, and so ain't a lot of these, but that's okay because the last book that I'm going to be recommending is what I consider more to be of a dystopian book, and that is Shatter Me. Shatter Me is a book that you can binge. I am living proof. The video never made the light of day, but I did at one point film myself literally binge reading this book in a night. I sat down, I picked it up, and I finished it, I think within the span of 4 hours. I was flying through this book. And then I continued to pick up the rest of the series after that. So this book we are following our main character Juliet. And Juliet has a very, very interesting thing about her. And pretty much whoever she touches, it can kill them. So she, I believe the story opens up and she is locked away in some sort of like insane asylum or something like that. And then enters Adam, and Adam works for, what do they call this? The reestablishment? Yeah. Enter Adam for the reestablishment, and the reestablishment wants to take Juliet and use this touch of power to keep them in power, pretty much. You go through the story with Juliet and you see if this reestablishment is actually a good thing, and if it's not, what are they gonna do about it? It's very interesting. It reminds me a lot of the Hunger Games and that whole era. So if you are into the Hunger Games, or if you love the dystopian era, even Divergent, this book is so fun for you because it reminds me of both of those. And if you're looking for a new, interesting dystopian book, here you go. We have went through quite a bit of things in today's video, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope that you guys who are in a reading slump can hopefully get out of it soon, because reading slumps suck. And that's that. With that being said, please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. It helps out the channel, makes my heart smile. You know how it be around here. Also, comment down below some of your cures for a reading slump. What else have you tried besides the methods that I mentioned? Also, if you guys have some book recs for those who are in a reading slump, comment those down below as well. I think my book recs were pretty standard, but honestly, in my opinion, they are very crucial. Also, be sure to tap that subscribe button and stick around for a while. We try to upload around here every Sunday and Thursday at 6 p.m. EST. That does not always happen, so make sure you turn on that post notification bell so you will be notified right when I upload a video. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye!